Hello, this is your host, Renata Ortega. Welcome to today's episode of the Cycle Breaker and Changemaker podcast. This podcast is all about how to break free from negative generational cycles in order to create meaningful, lasting changes. For helpful tools and answers to your most pressing questions, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Cycle Breaker Changemaker. I look forward to helping you on your cycle breaking and change-making journey. I promise you will find nothing more rewarding than this. In today's episode, I'll be discussing an introduction to overworking and workaholic behavior as a trauma response. Overworking happens when you are exceeding your capacity at work. This capacity can be physical, mental, or emotional. Overworking occurs when you work too long, too hard, or too much. Similarly to overworking, workaholics have an inability to control the time they spend on work, even if working has negative health and relationship consequences. Although overworking and workaholic behaviors are very similar, they differ in that workaholics tend to act out of compulsion and fear. Even though it may not be obvious at first, both behaviors can be a trauma response. So what exactly is overworking as a trauma response? Trauma and the feelings that come with it are hard and uncomfortable. They can be painful and extremely unsettling. If this is the case for you, work can so easily become a very welcome distraction. Work can feel like a safe place because you can immerse yourself in it. It can be a place of logic or chaos, but it is a place that is not in your mind and not made out of your feelings, which is where the relief comes from. Trauma victims may get lost in work. They may even work through discomfort and physical pain because they are so accustomed to putting their unresolved feelings into their jobs. If you find yourself immersing in work as a distraction from other areas of your life that are causing dissatisfaction or stress, you could be experiencing overworking or workaholism as a trauma response. So why does overworking or workaholism happen, and how does it impact the negative cycle? Work addiction and overworking tendencies can occur for many reasons. We do live in a time where we are torn between hustle culture and the fictitious ideology of achieving a work-life balance, which in and of itself can lead to challenges limiting our work time, either because of trying to keep up or because of blurred lines between work and non-work time. Today, however, I will be discussing overworking and workaholism as it relates to a trauma response. Extreme hyper or toxic productivity can be a response to a past trauma. It is an easy way to avoid unwanted thoughts and painful feelings. It sets a false pretense of being able to outrun your trauma. Having goals that are achievable and accomplished provide a hit of dopamine, and it feels great to accomplish something. It's no wonder we can enjoy working. The alternative, though, is when we stop working, our symptoms don't go away. In fact, they increase because there is no distraction. So we go back to working even more. This, unfortunately, does not resolve the cycle of trauma. It only perpetuates it, and it allows our behavior to impact future generations. Imagine you have a family that you are never present for because you are always working. In children, workaholic parents can foster perfectionism. Children may never have the opportunity to build a healthy attachment if their parent is never emotionally available because they're always working. Partners and friends may feel unimportant and even abandoned if they are never given the connection, attention, or affection they need. Unmet needs in children can lead to growing up to become overworkers themselves, and so the cycle repeats. Here's my story and how overworking has impacted me as an adult. For as long as I can remember, I have worked or volunteered. As soon as I was old enough to make jewelry, I set up my own business on the front lawn, selling my one-of-a-kind creations. I volunteered my time in hospitals and worked paid jobs as soon as I was legally allowed. I would take on as much work as I could, and I would work hard. I worked hard on paid work, volunteer work, and schoolwork. I remember on nights with my friends as a young adult, I would always be working on something. As an adult with a young family, this did not change. I added the job and life stage of having young children right on, and did not take anything away. People have often said to me that they cannot believe how much I can get done, and that I'm a machine. Believe it or not, that was never a compliment to me. It was never a badge of honor. It was never something I felt proud of. I just did not know how to operate in any other way. So what have I done to break the cycle of how overworking has impacted me? Step 1. Acknowledging what is happening. I had to acknowledge that I was overworking. Sometimes family or friends can help with this because they may tell you that you're not present enough. They may tell you you're always working. If this is happening, I urge you to listen to them. You do not need to change anything just yet, but just listen to them. For me, work felt like it was always on my mind, and I mean always, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep. I finally realized I was not able to shut my work brain off. While I could enjoy moments of presence in other facets of my life, as soon as these moments were over, my good old reliable friend work would creep right back in. I reached a point of not wanting to live this way anymore. Life is fleeting. I know that more than anyone after almost dying when I was 18. So I realized I wanted to live differently, more happily. Step 2. Boundaries. Setting up boundaries for others is helpful and needed, of course, with work. And if colleagues are not respecting your boundaries of when they can reach you, you need to take corrective actions. Hopefully, as the right to disconnect policies broaden in their reach and enforcement, this will become easier over time. If you overwork or are a workaholic, the biggest boundary you may need to set, and arguably the hardest one, is the boundary with yourself. You have to force yourself to get off your computer or physically remove yourself from your workplace. Get yourself immersed in another activity that requires your full focus and attention. This will be needed, especially if silence is hard. If you can, try to choose an activity that fulfills and energizes you. It will be more rewarding that way. And over time, you'll be comfortable with the silence and those work thoughts won't keep coming back in. Step 3. Find a new way to work. There's no such thing as a perfect work-life balance. I won't pretend there is because I don't ever want to set you up to think that is something you can attain. And it puts too much pressure on you to try to achieve something that is not real. However, you can work in a more tempered way. You don't have to go at 150 miles an hour all the time because that will exhaust you. You can allow yourself to shut off. Try email pausing programs. Or get a separate personal phone so you don't feel compelled to check your work phone all the time. Have an after-work ritual as a transition. If work thoughts do come up, because invariably they will, jot those thoughts down, get them out, and do not go back to them until your designated work time. Do not multitask. Humans cannot actually multitask. That is another fallacy. And task switching is extremely unproductive. Focus on one task. If a thought comes into your mind, jot it down, but don't start working on that new thought until you are finished with your first one. Here's my experience and how implementing the steps I've just shared led to a positive outcome. Changing my perspective and habits around work was not easy for me because I had always operated in one way. I overworked. I had to completely learn a new way of managing my mind and my time. Once I did, I became incredibly efficient with my work time and had so much more time for myself. By not overworking, I was able to figure out how to manage the time I would allow myself to work within, and created a system to work around other aspects of my mind and life that needed nourishment. For example, I love to learn new things. I love to research new concepts, and I love to volunteer my time. When I was overworking, I could not do any of these things. Understanding that I was running away from my past and right into work was eye-opening and life-changing. After making space for uncomfortable emotions to come and to go, and taking care of myself in ways that no one ever did when I was a child, I have been able to experience a level of happiness and peace I never knew existed. If you need help getting here, I'm here for you. Please reach out to me for help. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Cycle Breaker and Changemaker. I would love to hear from you and to receive your feedback. Remember, you can reach me on Instagram or Facebook at Cycle Breaker Changemaker. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts in order to help me continue to help you. I am looking forward to having you join me for the next episode. Until then, please take care.